Hello, everybody. Good morning to you, afternoon, and evening, depending on which part of the world you're at. We're dealing in all of them right now, having a lot of fun doing it. You are watching the Impact Money Show, where we delve into the financial narratives that are not only shaping our economy, but also redefining the global landscape. We're at the brink of an unprecedented week here in Washington, D.C., with the much anticipated D.C. inaugural week set to begin. This isn't just any week, it's a conference. This is our conference, of course. We have the whole inauguration of Trump and everything else. But this is a conference of political transition, economic discussion, and technological innovation. We are thrilled to be hosting a 2-day conference at the MGM Casino from January 18th to 19th, where we'll explore the future of finance, technology, and policy leading into what could be a landmark event, the Bitcoin inaugural ball on the evening of the 19th. This ball isn't merely a celebration, it's a statement of intent occurring on the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration on January 20th, signaling a potential shift towards a pro-crypto era in American policy. With the US dollar facing dilution from trillions in new money printing, this event highlights Bitcoin's role as a potential hedge against inflation. We're holding our breath, hoping for the attendance of both Trump and Elon Musk, which could cement this moment as a turning point for cryptocurrency in the United States. We're super excited about it. The inauguration is going to be a lot of fun, guys. If you're financially able, you should come to Washington. Whether you come to our event or not, obviously you should come to our event. But whether you come or not, you should certainly come for the inauguration of President Trump. I remember being at the inauguration during the last, 2016. And it was, thinking to myself, wow, this is really something else, right? I mean, this is historic moment. And then of course he didn't win the next time. I thought, well, there you go, glad I was there. And then now he's won again. Craziness. Good morning, Johnny Noteworthy. Always a pleasure to see you, brother. Then he won again. Let me throw some prices down here. It's some current prices that we have. Crypto prices. Things kind of popping around a bit. We just spiked down to about 98,600. Now it popped back up to 99. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Of course, the great Matt Dixon will join us shortly as well. But if you are able to get here for the inauguration, you should come. You should come. And what better way to come and celebrate the time than with us at the DC inaugural week? It's going to be a lot of fun. But as we look forward to this historic gathering, we can't ignore the weather's current narrative. A formidable winter storm has already graced Washington, D.C. My kids are going to be super excited. There's at least 6 inches of snow out there, with forecasts predicting another 6 to 12 inches on the way. This storm isn't just about cold. It's a significant disruptor, turning daily life upside down by closing the federal offices, delaying schools. Actually, I think all the schools are closed. Illustrating the profound impact of weather on our economy, mobility, and safety. This weather event stretches from the Central Plains to the East Coast, affecting millions of people and testing our preparedness for natural disruptions. I can tell you, we are going to be out there having a great time. I know that. We haven't had a good storm here. We haven't had a good snowstorm. I mean, it's been a long time. I think when we had just had, they were saying 16 years. People are saying it's going to be the biggest snowstorm in 16 years. I don't know about that. We had a big one. I feel like when my youngest was born, which was 10, she just celebrated her 10th birthday over the weekend. We had, my gosh, everyone loves this girl. She is popular. She loves those people, her friends, and they love her. It's pretty nice to watch. But they're supposed to be the biggest storm in a while. Now, that storm, that year, we had some good snow. You could really, it was deep. So anyway, we already have a good layer out there. I think that's going to continue. Kids are all excited. They're all home from school. I'll probably be out there building snowmen. We ended up in the Washington Post one time. We did a snowman family, and someone went by, took a picture, and put us back there. Amidst this snowy backdrop, the political scene in the U.S. is also evolving. Speaker Mike Johnson, re-election as Speaker of the House, ensures a resemblance of continuity in leadership, crucial as we approach the sensitive date of January 20th. And of course, today is January 6th. Very historic day for a number of reasons. Speaker Johnson's role will be pivotal in navigating Congress through the certification of election results, addressing the debt ceiling, the pushing forward Trump's legislative agenda, which includes tax reforms, border security, and energy policy. This continuity might also mean a more unified Republican front, but it doesn't erase the underlying division within the party, that's for sure. We'll see how it all rolls out. He had a lot of opposition. Of course, everyone just kind of folds in the end. It's kind of funny. It's like everyone wants, we're going to fight. And then they're like, all right, well, we're not going to fight this time. This time we're not going to fight. Whatever, guys. Maybe I'll be there one day and make some decisions. This guy was fighting, but he certainly caught a lot of flack for it, that's for sure. But he didn't care. Shifting on a lighter note, Hollywood provided a stark contrast with the 2025 Golden Globe Awards, where the focus was on celebrating artistic achievements, offering a night of glamour and escape from the political and economic tumult. However, the world beyond entertainment is fraught with challenges. The New Year's Day attack in New Orleans is a grim reminder of the ongoing battle for public safety and community peace, highlighting the need for robust response to violence. Health concerns continue to dominate the headlines with reports of a new virus from China. China! As Trump always says, it's China. Prompting global health organizations to tighten monitoring and consider quarantine measures. Reminder of us of the ever-present threat of pandemics. Now, I know myself and most of the people I know, I think most of the people that watch this show have two words for everybody. Not again. That's it, guys. That's it. We're not going back to the masks. We're not going back to being locked in our homes. Okay, it ain't happening. It is not happening. That is over. You got us once. You're not going to get us again. That's it. Those masks, those things were so funny. And listen, I fell for it hook, line, and sinker in the beginning, man. I saw those videos coming out of China and, them dropping over. I mean, gosh knows, what were they doing? Were they like hitting those people with like sonic waves or something? Or was that all a play? Or who knows? But I thought, gosh, man, this is really something. And I had just done an event at the Versace Mansion, as a matter of fact, like January 20th or 23rd or something like that. And I didn't get sick. But, it was a big event. We had a lot of people there. They rented out the place. And I love the Versace Mansion. That's one of my favorite places in the world. Done a lot of events there, spent a lot of money there, I'll tell you that. So a lot of my colleagues, though, coming back, got sick. And they were like, man, this is rough. This is no joke, man. I am sick as a dog. All right, okay, all right. So, again, I had that as well to consider. I thought, man, this is going to be rough. So I did. I fell for a hook, line, and sinker. I did. But not again. That's it. On the international front, cybersecurity has never been more critical. Myanmar is enforcing stringent new laws, while the U.S. deals with repercussions of the Chinese cyber attacks on its telecoms infrastructure, showcasing the visible wars fought in cyberspace. Meanwhile, Taiwan's appeal to South Korea for assistance after a subsea cable damage underscores the vulnerability of our digital and physical connectivity. In Canadian politics, there's buzz about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau possibly stepping down, potentially leading to a significant shift in policy and international relations. I'll tell you what, man, they're just, the influence of Musk and Trump is just unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. Canada should just become the 51st state. I mean, I hadn't really ever thought of it that way, to be honest with you, but it makes the most sense. Just become the 51st state. I mean, we've basically been supporting them anyway. They'll have lower taxes and probably better life. And I love Montreal. If Montreal is part of the U.S., it'd be great. Although I will say, Montreal being part of Canada, I mean, I love Canada. Canada's great. I mean, Montreal especially. Toronto's great too, but Montreal is one of my favorite cities in the world. I used to tell my wife, if I ever had just had to go somewhere, Montreal would be one of those places. I love Montreal. Montreal, beautiful place. Turning our attention to the Middle East, the Mossad's chief's planned visit to Qatar for discussions on hostage swap with Hamas is a delicate move towards peace, or at least a pause in hostilities, reflecting the intricate dance of diplomacy in the region of perpetual conflict. Economically, the U.S. dollar has seen a minor decrease by about 0.3% today on the DXY, gold prices echoing this decline. But silver stands out with 0.6 rise. This fluctuation is a complex interplay of market sentiment, Federal Reserve policy expectations, and global economic indicators, painting a picture of market volatility. In the cryptocurrency arena, Bitcoin's recent spike to nearly 99,900 over the weekend, only to retrace to 98,800. Actually, it went down to 98,6 something. It's currently trading at about 99,150. Has everyone asking, will it reclaim the 100,000 mark or continue to retrace? This volatility reflects not just market dynamics, but also the growing acceptance and scrutiny of cryptocurrencies as a new asset class. The tech sector is buzzing with AI and robotics breakthroughs. OpenAI's new development like ChatGPT's Canvas alongside Google's AI advancements, including Gemini 2.0, hint at a future where AI could redefine every aspect of our lives. Boston Dynamics Atlas robot showcasing Parker abilities is a testament to how far robotics has come, pointing towards a future where physical tasks might increasingly be automated. And I'll tell you what, if you guys are using Grok is really something else. Grok, and now they're coming out with the new Grok. I think we're using Grok 2.0 now. They can use now Grok 3, I guess, or whatever. They're updating it. I mean, it is an amazing AI. It's an amazing AI. In health policy, Robert F. Kennedy's junior confirmation as HHS secretary introduces a wild card into public health discussion with his controversial stance on vaccines and environmental issues, potentially steering policy in new debated directions. As we navigate through these stories, from the celebration of crypto to the solemnness of the memorial services of Jimmy Carter, from the chaos of the winter storms to the anticipation of political and technical shifts, we invite you to stay tuned to the Impact Money Show. We'll continue to unpack these narratives, offering insights, analysis, and implications on our wallets, our world, and our futures. I have with me here the great Matt Dixon with our market report. Sir Matt, how are you?
Hey, good morning, Bruce. Morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir. It is white. It's all white outside. It's snowy here.
Yeah, I can't show you, but it's white outside here as well. Absolutely across the board.
So how about that, huh?
Same thing. We've had disruption across the country. Rail services are stopped. Airports are closed. There's been plenty of, unfortunately, disruption on the motorways, highways, or whatever you call them. But yeah, basically, not too bad here. But yeah, it's white everywhere. So it's nice anyway. Nice to see over the Christmas period.
Yeah. Kind of cleans everything off a little bit.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen, but I wanted to discuss a few things. I think probably we'll go into charts a bit more later in the week. We'll touch on charts. Hopefully you can see the chart that I'm showing there.
Yes.
Yeah, you did mention about US dollar. I think US dollar is really important. As you know, I'm always talking about US dollar and its correlation. So I'll just touch a little bit on this chart first before we diverge into other discussions, perhaps. I mean, I'm trying to look at the big picture, what's likely to happen, what we're all obviously interested in, where are the markets going this year? And the markets are driven by various things, of course. Ultimately, they're driven by sentiment. What are people thinking? How happy are they? If they've got money in their pockets, and if there's money in their pockets, then obviously they'll spend it on investment risk assets. They want to become wealthier. If they don't have money in their pockets, then there's a bit of retrenchment in terms of spending. The economy is going down a bit. And so you can see that how sentiment drives the way markets will go. It actually determines how much money is available to go into these risk assets, to drive Bitcoin higher or the S&P higher. So just quite interestingly, there is a relationship, I think, with the US dollar. So I'm just looking, if you look at where I've got here, BTC launched, I've got it written in blue there, with the blue line down the center. That was about where Bitcoin was launched. This is actually a chart of DXY.
We're talking about 16 years ago?
Yeah,
Okay.
2009, so 15, 16 years ago, yeah. So that's when it's launched with this blue line. This is a chart of the US dollar. So against a basket of currencies, it's the dollar index. So from the launch, we can see the dollar has really consistently risen. We're currently at 108 on the dollar index. That's actually quite interesting, 108, and we had an all-time high of 108,000 on Bitcoin. That's just a weird coincidence. Yeah. Just a coincidence, but it's quite interesting that we're 108 on, you can see there on the right-hand side, it says 108 on the dollar index. So anyway, basically we can see that Bitcoin has risen at the same time that dollar index has risen during that same period. So there's some positive correlation there, it seems, certainly in the long term, between the dollar index and Bitcoin. So the big question is, where is the dollar index going? Because if the dollar index is going to continue pushing higher, then if this correlation continues, then it's likely Bitcoin will continue to push higher. If we're going to see reversal, then conversely, we're likely to see Bitcoin probably declining. So let's just look at where we've gone. I've got this chart actually going back to the 1960s. This is dollar index right back to the 60s. And we can see that overall, it's been kind of corrective to the downside so far. So what we notice is we can see lower highs. So you can see from the high point here in 1985, we came lower and lower and lower. The next high point was in 2002. So we can see that's a lower high there. And even from 2002 to today, we can again see a lower high in place. So basically what we say is we have lower highs, but we also have, interestingly, lower lows. So the low point back in 1980 came to a lower low point in 1992, which then came to a lower low point again in 2008. That was the depth of the financial crisis just before Bitcoin was launched. That was a low point. So quite interestingly, that was the depth of the financial crisis. Bitcoin was launched and dollar was all-time low. And now we've seen it rise. And we've seen the markets rise pretty much since 2008, and we've seen Bitcoin rise since 2008. So I think there really is a relationship we need to keep an eye on, watch out what's going to happen with the US dollar. So as I say, when you see lower highs and lower lows, that tells you that the overall trend is down. Now, the biggest maxim there is, biggest saying they have basically within the investment world is trend is your friend. You need to try to trade within the overall trend. Now, very clearly, the overall trend here on the US dollar appears to be downwards. But we've been in since 2008, since the financial crisis. We've been in the US dollar rising, but also markets rising. But all I'm saying is the overall long-term trend, we just hit a potential turning point with the US dollar, there or thereabouts. Now, this is a very long-term chart. This is a 3-monthly chart. So each of these candles is a duration of 3 months. So it's long-term. Very difficult. You can't play short-term trades from a long-term chart, really. This is just to give you a feeling of the overall picture of what's happening. Now, let's just try to think about this. What is likely to affect the value of the US dollar? And of course, there's a couple of big issues, obviously sentiment, but then what drives sentiment? We're talking about macroeconomics and we're talking about geopolitics. Now we're in a potential turning point for both those massive areas. So economically, are we in a turning point? Well, yes, we are potentially, we're seeing interest rates potentially going down further. They have been going down a little bit, but the problem is we've got inflation higher. So I said we're going to visit the charts probably later this week. So we'll look at those in more detail later this week. But basically, interest rates are very, very important. If we do continue to see interest rates going down in the US, then likely we're going to see the US dollar declining. So it all depends very much on the US economy. At the moment, the US economy is reasonably robust. But again, we'll see in the charts that there are a few warning signs out there that the US economy is flashing some warning signs, that we've got a few interesting signs that the US economy may be about to turn to the downside. Now, this is off the back of some major euphoria and optimism around the Trump election. And obviously, as you said, Trump is going to come into power, inauguration 20th of January. So very interesting. So we know that he's going to come into power on Jan 20th. And then we're trying to think about what's happening geopolitically around the world. It's a very different situation than we've had for many, many, many years. You've got this coalition between, you've got Russia, you've got North Korea, you've got Iran, potentially China. There's a lot of powers coming together there, which are a real potential threat. But are they a real threat to the West? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But what is a more immediate threat, I think, is in the Middle East. And the reason that's important, and we'll touch on the oil chart later, the reason that's important is the Middle East is kind of seen as the center of the world. It's very, very important. The powers, both East and West, try to maintain some control. Obviously, a lot of the world's energy and oil flows through the Middle East. Iran, obviously, Saudi Arabia, Israel now, they're big, big oil and gas producers. So it's very, very important. And then what's going on with Israel? Obviously, there's been a recent basically conflicts with the nations around. And most recently, we saw Syria. But there's still a thing bubbling and going on with Iran, because Iran is behind a lot of this trouble in the Middle East. They're basically supporting what they call the proxies, the Iranian proxies that are basically antagonistic towards Israel. So you've got the Gaza and Hezbollah. You've got the Houthis in Yemen. But you've got all in that region, really. You've got Hezbollah in the in the north, basically. So you've got a lot of nations there. But then, interestingly, we've seen Syria as well recently. Syria has been stable for a long, long time under Assad.
Long time, over 50 years.
Yeah, that's right, under his father and then Bashar al-Assad. So, and that just changed virtually overnight. And what changed that? I think that's because Russia's got their hands full with Ukraine. And Russia has been a major supporter of Syria for many, many years. So they weren't able to provide that support for Syria. And so I think that's why some of these forces were able to come in and oust Assad so very, very quickly. But this is more of a concern for Israel because, again, there was a kind of not exactly peace, but a kind of understanding, shall I say, between Syria and Israel. There was no major conflict there, but now we have forces in place which are potentially antagonistic. Now, what's going on? I've looked into what is going on militarily as much as I can. I mean, obviously, I don't have access to such privileged information, but I know that that the UK and Israel have both been collaborating in producing these air defense systems. Now, one that they've been working on for quite some time now is a laser air defense system. Now, why is this important? At the moment, they've got the Iron Dome. It costs about $30,000 to bring down each missile that's fired at Israel. And as we know, the hundreds, if not thousands of missiles have been fired at Israel from Iran and the Iranian proxies. And it's $30,000. So no wonder America has been funding a lot of this. No wonder.
Man, I feel it. Trust me, man. It's like craziness.
Absolutely. The money that's flowed in, think about it, $30,000 to shoot down every single missile. This is basically Iron Dome.
I think diplomacy might be in order, guys. Let's just try not to blow missiles at each other.
I think you're right, and I think that's coming. But the other thing is coming is, as I say, $30,000. So with this laser defense system, from $30,000, it's going to come down to a cost for each missile to bring each missile down of about $13.
Wow.
Like $13. So it's going to be almost for free to bring those missiles down in future. Now, they're very close to deployment of these laser air defense systems. They work very, very well. They've been tested. The British have one called Dragonfire, which they've already tested successfully. There are a few issues. They don't work particularly well in fog and in cloudy conditions, but they're trying to work through that. So the British have tested their Dragonfire system, which is good. But actually, the Israelis have another system, which is due to actually be deployed before probably somewhere around the middle of 2025. So they're not far away from this deployment. Now, I would suggest, and this is just my little theory, I don't know how true it is, but I would suggest that if there's going to be any major move against Israel by Iran and its proxies, it's got to be before the deployment of this system, because once they're deployed with this system, I would suggest that Israel, they'll certainly feel very, very secure with having that system, $13 to be able to bring down a missile virtually at will.
It's free.
Yeah, so it's basically for free. So I would suggest that if they're going to have any major go at taking Israel out, which they want to, there's no doubt about it. It's even in the manifesto of a lot of the regimes and Hezbollah, Hamas. It's in their manifestos that they want to eliminate Israel. Now, whether you're pro or against Israel, it doesn't matter. The fact is,
it is both sides, though. I mean, Israel wants greater Israel. They want all those countries out of there. I mean, they want it all to be Israel. It is both sides. But yes, it is in their manifestos.
Yeah, it's good that there's always two sides to every argument. So it's good that we do need to put those out. As I say, whether you're pro or anti-Israel is not really the point. The point is what's actually happening. Israel are going to have this laser defense system operational within a very short period of time. So there's only a very small window. And then couple this with the fact that Trump is coming in, and Trump will want there to be a peace. He'll want a major success on the peace front, both in Ukraine, Russia, but also in the Middle East.
And he's going to use every tool in his shed. He's going to use it all. I think he's going to get it done. It's pretty exciting.
I believe you're right. I really believe you're right. So this just brings the window in narrower and narrower. So I think that, bearing in mind, we've only got a matter of months before this laser defense system comes in. We've only got a matter of days now, a few weeks before Trump comes into power. So I think that we may be getting reasonably close towards a potential flare-up in the Middle East. And then obviously Trump will come in and hopefully put it all under control, a major success for him. And there'll be this peace process. So that's why I think that ties in very well with where the markets are at. So the only thing is, I'm not sure, we may still potentially see higher in the US dollar. We can't say for sure where it's going. I'm just saying that we do see the lower highs and lower lows. So potentially we're going to see some lower US dollar. So does that tie in with what we're looking at? But if we do see lower US dollar, and even now, this candle, by the way, the latest candle, bear in mind these are 3-month candles. Let's go back to the 1-month chart. Let me just move that to 1 month. So again, the 1-month chart, it actually tested higher, it tried higher, and then the candle is actually pushing lower at the moment. So we're at a potential turning point. Bear in mind, we've got an interest rate decision again this month, and it looks like the US are going to actually hold this time round. The last 2 meetings, they've cut interest rates.
Yep.
This time, they're probably going to hold, but they may talk more dovishly about future cuts. So will that bring the US dollar lower? I'm not sure. Let me just go to the weekly. And then we can now see on the weekly, the last signal that we had was what's called a hidden bullish divergence. So we got basically a higher low on price and we got a lower low on RSI. That told you that the dollar was going to push higher. It's precisely what it did. Now, right now, we don't have any particular divergences in place because we have lower highs on price and we also have pretty much lower highs on RSI. So there's no signal in place at the moment. So it's actually really difficult. So we need to just look at short-term candlestick patterns, I think, as good as any. We can also look at moving average crossovers, etc. We can look at that maybe later in the week. But at the moment, if this continues, this is a potential turning candle. Let's see how the week finishes. But so far, we've seen a bit of a turn down in US dollar. We peaked last week, 109. We're now down at 107.98. So we're looking at a potential turn in US dollar to the downside. Now, if we're seeing that, we're seeing a potential turn in Bitcoin. As you say, Bitcoin pushed higher. It tested almost 100,000. It's now over 99,000. So all I'm saying is there's a potential turning point. We've already seen the US dollar is correlated with Bitcoin. So if we see the US dollar turn down, and we're still on US dollar chart here, then we're going to see Bitcoin turn down as well, most probably. So moving on to Bitcoin chart, here we do have a really interesting signal. We do have regular bearish divergence in place. So we saw that. We can see the higher highs on price, the lower highs on RSI. From very overbought conditions, this is telling you that there's too many people in the market. Everyone was buying, massive optimism, and that's really exactly where we're at even now. There's massive optimism. We could push again a little bit higher, but I think the risk is for a push down. But we've got to keep in the back of our minds what is going to happen longer term. I think this euphoria with Trump is not just on the macro, the geopolitical situation, where I think he's going to bring a big, maybe a big worldwide piece into play, which is going to be positive to the markets, but also I think the economy will breathe a big sigh of relief. We've got AI, we've got everything. So I think that's all going to be quite positive in the short term. But longer term, this to me, and again, if we scrolled out on Bitcoin, we're basically entering what looks like the end of a third wave, took us to all-time high. I think we're messing about in a bit of a fourth wave right now. I mean, even on this cycle here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's hard to tell, but I think that we're close to a potential turnaround on Bitcoin. So we're going to push lower. I've got this arrow pushing lower here. So I think that medium term, we're looking for a pull down on Bitcoin before we push up with this major euphoria and optimism we'll get with the Trump administration coming in. So I'm just trying to...
Everyone's yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, we are going to get there, but yeah, there might be some time in between.
Yeah, exactly. So that's so from the top, we can basically see we've had one push down. That's an A wave, a push up, B wave, and we're going to get another push down in line with this arrow in a C wave before we then push up with the Trump euphoria. I'll just touch on, I think it's going to be better when we go into the economic charts later this week, really, to see exactly what's happening and why. But, you know, again, if we look at Solana, we still haven't exceeded that previous all-time high, really. We equaled it pretty well around that 260-ish area. We can see here the previous all-time high on Solana. I've actually got that as an A wave. This is a B wave. That's a C wave. If I'm wrong, and of course I can be wrong, this could be a wave 1. This can't be wave 2 because it went lower than that. So even if we count this as some kind of wave 1, I don't think the wave 2 is deep enough. So we've still got more downside to come. And this is a long-term weekly chart. If I go shorter term, again, we haven't finished the correction here. We've only started the correction. We haven't finished. There's a further correction down. So again, short term, I'm just trying to give people a picture that we are expecting more downside before we get the major push to the upside, which I think is going to be when Trump gets into power. How long that will last, we can look at charts later and try to determine. So what Elliott Wave does, Elliott Wave tells you about levels in markets. It doesn't tell you about timing. So when people say, oh, you've got an arrow saying going to January 25 for an all-time high, I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you about levels with the Elliott wave. The only way really to look at timing is look at cycle analysis. And I've looked at some of the best people in cycle analysis, and there's a thing called Hurst analysis, which looks at market cycles. I've not found them to be very predictive or accurate, and I've actually just found them not helpful at all. So I think we're better to look at the fundamentals behind the markets to try to determine when things are going to happen. So fundamentally, I think we'll see a downturn, possibly aligning with this, the antagonists of Israel really trying to do something quickly before Trump gets in. And I think that might drive markets lower. I think that's going to happen personally, and I'm sticking my neck right on the line here. I think that's going to happen reasonably quickly before Trump gets into power. But when Trump gets in, we're going to see a push higher in the markets, I think. So I still say I will wait for better prices to be buying into markets. I think we're going to see a turn down in markets. If you're going long here, it's not good for risk reward. Remember what we're always saying? We're middle of the range here, right in the middle of the range. So it's a 50-50 risk whether it goes lower or higher. So for me, I'd rather stay out. I'm waiting for lower. If it doesn't go lower and it goes high, yes, I've missed gains, but at least I haven't lost money. Number one rule for me, and I think it actually comes before trend is your friend. Number one rule is don't lose money.
Yep.
The other one is obviously trend is your friend. You need to follow trends. At the moment, this trend appears to be on a downward trajectory in this time frame. Here we're looking at just daily, so relatively short term. We're looking at probably downtrend before we then start to reverse to the upside. So as I say, I think it's going to become clearer when we look at the actual charts that what's really going on under the bonnet with the economy, with the indicators. We need to look very closely what's happening with inflation, what's happening with interest rates, what's happening with growth, what's happening with unemployment. And these are the things which determine how much money is in people's pocket to spend on these risk assets. And then there's bigger pictures at play. Again, we can discuss that on another show, looking at the advances in AI, et cetera, et cetera. That also obviously plays into the mix as well. So there's many, many moving parts. And that's why I say we need to try to take as much into account as possible when we're trying to determine where the markets are going. And then the other one moving part is, I think is very, very important, the Japanese yen. Yep. Now, the Japanese yen is important because we've said it many times before. The Japanese yen is a funding currency. People borrow from the yen because it's almost zero interest rate, and they invest into risk assets. So as long as that's happening, the yen is weakening. So this chart is actually inverse to the yen. It's the dollar against the yen. So as it goes higher, the yen is weakening. That means people are borrowing more and more yen, and they're investing into other assets. So the yen is weakening. But this is set for reversal fairly soon, and it aligns with what I've just said. I'm always talking about jigsaw pieces fitting together. Here, we've got the Japanese yen rising, 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 and it's going to take a reversal soon. I'll just actually look back at, let's just go back and see where it was since Bitcoin came into existence. Yeah, interestingly, okay, that's very, very interesting. So back from the financial crisis, back here, we can see that the yen has been weakening, whilst Bitcoin has been strengthening. So just again shows you how it all fits together. It's beautiful, isn't it? So we're seeing yen weakening here. As this goes up, the yen is weakening, but we're also seeing at the same time, this is in the same direction as Bitcoin, in fact. So as long as this is going up, Bitcoin's going up. But what I'm saying is we're close to an end point on this dollar yen. And what's going to turn it? Again, let's look for what the reasons might be. The Japanese are going to raise rates in the first quarter of 2025. The last time that happened last year, it caused a big market sell-off. When it happens again this year, first quarter, not quite sure when, but it's going to happen, we believe, first quarter, it's going to cause a sell-off in the market. So we look at the reasons for what's going to happen. Here's a good reason. So again, we can just see the correlation perfectly with markets on a longer term. It's going to happen. The Japanese are going to raise rates. It's going to cause basically a sell-off of the carry trade. That means money is going to come out of risk assets like Bitcoin, etc. So even though we're seeing all that euphoria right now, it's going to turn soon. That's my belief. So I think we'll finish on that today. So
Right.
again, the takeaway is that there's going to be some short-term shakeout, I believe, in the markets. And if this is a 5-wave move up in the Japanese dollar against yen, we're going to see a corrective move down at least. Maybe it's even a turn to the downside longer term, but we will see that, and that will cause a sell-off in risk assets. So the time now, again, I'm always saying be cautious. Trading, I believe, is all about caution. The risk is right there at the moment because we're middle of the road. We're in no man's land as far as risk assets go, particularly Bitcoin. We're middle of the road right now on the price, and so it's highly risky to take a position. So just basically keep your powder dry and wait. Let's look at the markets, whether it's tomorrow, Wednesday, whenever. Let's take a close look at the actual drivers of the markets, and then we get a clearer picture. So hopefully by the end of this week, we can come to a clear conclusion about how you should position yourself in the market. So hope that gives you a bit of a broad brush picture for today.
Amazing.
As I said, we'll focus in with more detail later in the week. So go ahead, Bruce.
I said awesome.
Oh, great. Good. Just on oil, by the way. Here's oil. Looks like corrective down. We're pushing up a little bit. This is a long-term chart, monthly chart. But if we see some turbulence in the Middle East, obviously we'll see oil push to big, much, much higher. That will push inflation up.
The prices at the pump are pretty high right now. I don't know. I guess it's like everything else when you get the move up. The price per barrel is not that high, but the price at the pump is high.
Yeah, but this looks like a 5-wave move up. It looks impulsive higher. This looks corrective down.
Yeah.
And we could even have a wave 1, wave 2 here because it's not dropped below that. So we could be about to move impulsively higher. Again, that would align with expectations of, I do believe there's going to be a flare up because of this laser defense system coming into play. I think they're going to make their move before Trump comes into power, before that laser defense system comes, is basically implemented. And so we're going to see oil prices spike, I believe. That's bad for markets. It just fits in again with the overall picture that we're talking about. So right now there's optimism, but that can turn on a dime, and I think it's going to happen. So oil does look as though it's going to push higher. It's already beginning to show signs of pushing higher. As we said, it's pushed from even recent times, 63, we're now 74. That's close to 20% higher already, potentially much higher to come. And that's going to be really nasty for markets short term.
Indeed.
So sorry to be the bearer of, it's not bad news because I say it's all about opportunity. If we can keep our powder dry and wait, then we'll be in a much better position and much more money to be made. So I like to think of everything as a positive opportunity. So we'll leave it on a positive note and look forward to catching up in the next couple of days.
Awesome. Well, always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, everybody. Bye for now.
Cheers. The great Matt Dixon with the Market Watch Report. As I always say, it's world-class market analysis that we have right here. If you have been trading our signals over the last year, you already know, and you should probably be. You can join 2Bit Exchange. You can see right down there. I have the QR code. You can hit that QR code with your phone. That'll take you right there. If you aren't going to use that QR code, you can just go to 2bit.com, TOOBIT, and join. Make sure to use the referral code Impact Money, all one word. And you can set up a copy trader and copy our trades. We'll be doing a lot more of that here in 2025. Of course, we were able to forge that relationship with 2Bit Exchange when I went out to Dubai a couple of months ago. Speaking of traveling, I will be in Hong Kong for Consensus next month. It's February 18th and 19th. Really looking forward to it. I know a lot of my colleagues over there are, we've been talking back and forth, and we're super excited to work together. If you are US based and you want to meet some of the people in Asia and possibly work with them, this is a tremendous opportunity to work with a company, Consensus, that is a US company, has been probably the most important event in the US for a long time. They used to be in New York all the time. Now they're in Austin. It's become a bit more of a festival. I have a hard time when I go out there of going to bed at night, making it to the conference the next day, which is really not like me. to be totally frank. But in Austin, it's just like it's like, I don't know. It's like Music City, USA, Nashville on steroids. Maybe that's how Nashville used to be. Austin is just, it's crazy. It's a crazy place. Good food, good people, all that stuff. I do joke with them though. I say, you guys are in the desert, right? You guys know that, right? You guys are in denial, trying to have their lawns and everything else. The lawn's all dead and dry, guys. And of course, the conference is usually during a hot time of the month. So we are tracking that in Hong Kong next month. Super excited. If you are an Asian company or another company from around the world and you are looking for U.S. access, which of course that's the big news, right? I mean, the U.S. now opening up is big news for everybody. Then we will be there and we'd like to talk to you. Tremendous opportunity that's going on here with the first crypto president, the first president that has taken crypto under his wing and owns a bunch of crypto and everything like that, which is great. The more crypto Trump owns, the better off we are, right? And of course, Elon, as we all know, owns a lot of crypto himself. So tremendous opportunity that we have going on here. That's another reason why we talk about this DC Inaugural Week. That's DCinaugural.com is the site. Let me just put that up here. DC Inaugural. Make sure I have it right because I messed it up a couple of times. DCinaugural.com. Boom. That there is the website. You can check it out. We have different ways that you can sponsor. I think the normal ticket's like $1,500, so that's pretty cheap, really. And for especially what you're doing, what you're getting, and a 2-day conference, and of course the inaugural Bitcoin ball. Super excited about that. That'll be on the 19th, and then we'll all go to the inauguration on the next day on the 20th. So it's going to be super exciting, super fun. We're really excited about it. So DCinaugural.com, you can check that out. Of course, you can reach out to me on direct message as well and talk to me about that. If you're a company and you want to sponsor, we have tremendous opportunity for you currently before things all get picked up, which they are going quickly. So reach out to me. I don't know when you're going to find a better opportunity to be in the exact place where the people that are making policy for the next 4 years are going to be. Okay, this is the spot. DC is the spot. We were going to be down in Miami, but of course the inauguration has just sucked all of the life out of everything else around the world. It is all about Donald Trump's inauguration. Everybody's super excited about it. And, it's really something else. I mean, having been here and I have voted in a few elections, and I really, to be honest, I was not optimistic that Trump would win. I was hoping that he'd win, but I wasn't optimistic that he would win. And the fact that he won is really something else. The entire world actually, I was talking again with my friends in Hong Kong, and they were like, well, the last 4 years has just been an absolute disaster. I mean, whatever side of the aisle you are on, the last 4 years has been a disaster, and the worldwide economy has suffered a lot. And, when the dollar inflates like it does, that doesn't just affect us. It affects the whole world because the U.S. dollar is, of course, the world reserve currency. As well, the dollar is being used for all these types of sanctions. It's also very hard it's not good for the currency to be used like that. Russia didn't want to stop trading in U.S. dollars. It wasn't very, that wasn't very conducive for anything. It wasn't good for us either to force them out of the U.S. dollar, force them into making this new BRICS currency, which of course isn't out yet, the currency itself, but certainly those groups, those relationships with those different countries, we pushed them, the U.S. pushed them into that with our monetary policy. That's how we did it. So anyway, that's it for me today, guys. I'm going to have a good time with the kids out in the snow. We will be back on your TVs in a few hours. Where's my always a pleasure, guys. I am signing off. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.